Welcome back to a new video. In this video, we are going to do data cleaning using Python Pandas. The dataset is going to be about restaurants, and I'm going to add its link in the description of this video. Let's start coding. So right now we are in the cargo page of the dataset that we are going to use for this video, and I'm going to leave this link in the description of this video. You can just check the description for getting this dataset. So let's quickly check the website, and then we are going to start coding. Our dataset name is Zomato, and we can see that it says you have to perform the following tasks. I'm going to copy this list, but I'm not going to apply all of them. Maybe I will, I'm not sure, we will see that. And more, let's check. It says it's a CSV file and there's 17 columns, and we can just check the column list from here. Like we have a lot of columns, text, numeric type. We are going to just see them in detail in a second in the code editor, and I think it's all for the card page. Again, I'm going to add this datasets link in the description of this video. Also, you need to use the download button in here, and you need to put this in the folder that you are going to run your Python script or Jupyter notebook. Okay, now we can download our data and start to our data cleaning operation. Now we are in the VS Code. You can use any code editor that you want. You can use Google Colab, PyCharm, Spider, and stuff like that. I'm just going to open the files section, and I will say notebook.ipmb. I'm going to create a Jupyter notebook, and I'm going to put my Zomato dataset in here. So it's in here right now. What we're going to do right now is I'm just going to say close to this, and then we are going to come to our Jupyter notebook. We are going to select the kernel. I'm going to select my Python environment. Then I'm going to say import pandas as PD. And before starting to anything, I just want to show you the pandas version real quick. It's 203. So if your pen is not in the same version and the codes are not working in your version, you can just set this version to your local environment. Like you can say pip install pandas for installing the pandas from the terminal, and you can specify the version like this. Okay, since we did this, what we are going to do right now is we are just going to load our data at the first place. I'm going to say data, and it's going to be pandas read CSV, and our CSV file name zomato.csv. I'm going to copy its name and paste it in here. And after that, we can just check if it's loaded successfully from using data.head. Head returns the first 5 rows with all the columns in the dataset. Also, you can use tail for seeing the last 5 rows, and you can give numbers to this, like tail 2, you will see 2 entries, head 2, you will see first 2 entries. Also, you can just write 3 and the number you want. You can even say 100 in here, like this, and it's still going to work. But let's do this 2, and let's check what we have in here. So we have URL with string data type, address with string, and name with string, online order with string, like boolean type, yes and no's, rate in here, string, votes integer, phone, yes, string since there's a plus sign, location, string, restaurant type, data type is string, string, in dish liked and cuisines, and at the approximate cost side there's integer, and review, the other ones are string 2, reviews list, menu item listed in, and listed in city. So we can check the columns like using data.columns, but I want to see the data types in here too. Another method for doing this is we generally use this when we are doing an operation with data in Python. You can call data.info, which means information, and you are going to see range index and data types, memory usage, and non-null value counts. So one quick tip in here, if you see different numbers in different columns, like there's this number 51,717 in the book table and 43,942 at the rate. So it means that there is null values in here since there is more non-null values. So we are also going to get to that side of things, and what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to say data.shape for getting the row and column count, we have 51,717 rows and 17 columns. So I'm just going to take the task list from the Kaggle and I'm just going to paste it in here. Like I just copy it to my clipboard and I will do that. I'm just going to make it run too. And we can see that deleting redundant columns, renaming the columns, dropping duplicates, remove the NA values from the dataset, cleaning individual columns, and check for some more transformations. So let's go one by one and start from deleting redundant columns. So there's two ways for it. One way is you can filter out, like you can select the columns that you want to keep, and the other way is you can drop the columns that you don't want to use. So I'm just going to call the data that columns again, and we are going to create two lists for showing the two methods. So I'm going to show the both the ways. At the first place, I'm going to create something like columns to not drop, and at the second place I will say columns to drop. So actually we can change this name to like columns to keep. Okay, so these are two going to be lists and we are going to select from here. Actually I don't want URL, address, name can be useful. I'm going to just add this two to the columns to drop, and I want name, I want online order, I want book table, I want book rate. Actually I don't want the other parts for now. I'm going to set them and I'm going to continue. I'm going to drop the votes, phone, location, restaurant type to here, and actually let me just fix this like that, and I'm going to add the dish liked, cuisines, approximate cost for two people. Actually I will put dish liked, columns to keep, and I'm going to say cuisines, I don't want that, so I'm going to drop that, and I will take this to columns to keep, and I'm going to delete the others. So I'm just going to make this list saved, and let's just check what we did. I'm going to call the data.shape. We have 17 columns and we are going to keep columns to keep 6 columns, and we are going to drop columns to drop. We are going to drop 11 columns. So I'm going to just quickly say first way, and let's say for the first way filtering data. Okay, I'm just going to make this cell run, and then for the first way what we are going to do is we are going to use the columns to keep that we created. So let's say you want to filter a column from the data frame. How we can do that is you can just add two brackets and you can say the column name, like name, and then you are going to have a new data frame. So you can also add other columns, like you can also add URL for example, and you are going to get a data frame. But if you just use single bracket with a column like this, what you are going to have is you are going to have a series. So let's also quickly say type, and we are going to see it's a Pandas series. And I'm just going to show you what happens if you do this operation with two column names with single brackets. It's going to raise and key error. So if you want to take, for example, 2 or more columns, you need to use two brackets for returning it to data frame, because if you select one you are going to get Pandas series, but you can't get a series with 2 columns. Okay, so this is how we are going to do this operation. So after now what we can do is we can just delete this, and since we are going to give a list object, actually let me call the columns to keep in here, you are going to see that it's already including these brackets, so we don't need to give extra bracket. We can just say columns to keep, and I'm just going to make this run, and we want the columns that we wanted. Great. So we have this data frame right now, but if we call the data, we are going to see that we are going to have the original data frame with all the columns and rows. So we didn't modify the original data frame. What we can do is we can just save this as data, and we are going to have this data frame from now on. But I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to set it to something like modify data, and then I'm going to make it run, and I'm going to call the modify data right now. We are going to see that we have the data frame that we wanted. So this was the first way. So let's get to a second. And I will say in the second way, let's say like second way, dropping the columns. And in here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just call the list columns to drop, and I'm going to show you the syntax for dropping the columns in the data frame. Let's call the data, and let's say we want to drop this URL. So I will say data.drop, and I'm going to say columns, and I'm going to give like URL, and I'm going to make it run. And you will see that we don't have URL from now on. Also, you can just set this like data equals to, and you will have a data frame without the URL column. And one another way for setting this and modifying the original data frame is you can just set in place equals to true, and it will lead to modifying the original data frame, which is the thing we wanted. And you are going to have a data frame without URL column from now on the data. So I'm just going to make it delete, and what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to delete the URL, and I'm going to give the columns in here. So I will just give that list, and you are going to see that we have the data frame that we wanted. Also, we didn't modify the original data frame, so in here I'm just going to add a little bit. I will say in place equals to true, and I will set it. So from now on, whenever I call the data, we are going to have a data frame with the columns that we wanted. Great. So that was the first step of the data cleaning. So let me call the steps again. We have renaming the columns right now. Okay, let me call the data we have. Let's say, let's just change like, actually, okay, let's say like we want to just change one of them. So we can do data.rename, and we can just set columns. We are going to give a dictionary old name at the first place. Let's say we want to change the name to something like name 1. Okay, it can work. I'm just going to do that, and I will make it run. It says name 1 at the first place, and if I call the data, you are going to see that it didn't change since we didn't save it. Like we can save it with the in place equals to true, and it will work as name 1, but I'm not going to do that. It's the syntax for changing some columns one by one. Like you can do online order, and you can just say like online order 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to remove the in place because I want my original data frame to stay at the same column names, and we can see online order 1, 2, 3 is in here. So I'm going to show you a different thing. Let's write to this like changing one by one. Actually, let's say removing. Okay, it's cool, but let's see how we can change all of them. I'm going to say in here data.columns, and let's say I want them to be uppercase letter at the first letter. So let me show you what I meant. Data.columns, and the first element. Now what I'm going to do is I will say capitalize like this, and you will see the N is going to get uppercase, and now I want to make all of them like that. So I'm going to create a for loop. I will say for index in data.columns print, I'm going to say index.capitalize like this, and we can see we have what we want. So I'm going to create a list in here. Actually, let's not change this. I'm going to create a new list like new column names, and it's going to be an empty list just for now, and I'm going to recreate my for loop like for index in data.columns. I will say new column names dot append, and I'm going to take this. So it's going to add all of these elements in the new list that we created. So I'm just going to add this, and then I'm going to make it run. And when I call the new column names, we are going to see that we have a list with the values that we want. So we have one easy step left. I'm going to call the data.columns, and how we can change all of them at one place is we can just set it to new column names like this. And after that, whenever I call the data, I'm going to have these column names instead of the old ones. So let me quickly call, and we can see the column names are changed. Like I can also call the data.columns, and we can observe the change. Great. So let me quickly call the task list again, and I think it's clear too right now. So it's time for dropping the duplicates. Okay, I will say data.duplicated, and it's going to return me booleans like true and false row wise. So we can see that false, false, true, true, and we have add of values in here. So what we can do in here is we can just use that sum for getting the true count like this. It's 32,000. One other thing is we can just go data duplicated again, and after that we can say dot value counts. Since this is a series, we can do manipulations like that, and we will see true and false in here. Also, what we can do is, let's say you only want to check the last 15 rows, so you can just use tail or first 15. You can do anything you want since it's a series and you can manipulate this. So we just checked and we have out of duplicates. What we are going to do is we are going to say data.drop duplicates, but it's not going to modify the original data frame, and it's going to give a new data frame with non-duplicates. So I will say data, and we are going to have 51,000 rows, and I will say data.duplicated.sum, and we are going to still have the duplicates. So we need to do other operation. We need to set this with in place equals to true, and when we do that, and when we come to data duplicated sum, we are going to have 0 duplicates like this. Great. So now we are at removing the NA values. So just like the duplicated ones, I'm going to say data.isNA, and it's going to return me booleans like true and false cell-wise like this. And I can just use that sum for getting the counts column-wise, and we have a lot of NA values like this. So how we can drop them is we can just say data.drop NA, and we can just see that it's going to return us a new data frame with NA values dropped. So I can call data.isNA.sum, but we didn't modify the original data frame, so it's going to give me the null values. So I'm just going to set something like in place equals to true, and from now on we are not going to have any NA values. So before jumping to the next step, I want to show you one thing, that now these indexes are shifted. How you can understand that is you can just see like it skips from 51,611 to 51,617, and it goes like that. Also you can understand it from we have 8,250 rows with this much indexes, like 51,000 index. So I don't want that, no one wants. So I'm going to say data.reset index, and we are going to reset our index, and now you can see that 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we have 8,250 rows, and our last index has the number 8,249. So just a small thing in Python, indexes starts from 0. So there's 800, 250 index numbers in here. Also, you can see that we have a new column named index, and we don't want that. So I'm just going to say in place equals true in here for setting the data, and we can just set data, and we are going to have the index column, which is unnecessary in this scenario. So I will say data.drop, and you already know we are going to say columns, and I'm going to give the index name, and then I'm going to set in place equals to true. And after that, I'm just going to call the data for checking if I deleted the index column, and it's gone. Great. So we don't have an unnecessary column in here. Great. So I can just call the test list again, like this. Okay. So we are at the cleaning individual columns. Okay, let's go for the rate column. I'm going to just call the rate, and I'm just going to select a random index from that. Let's say 14, and it's a string. Also, we can check it like this, type, and we are going to have a string. Also, let's just delete this and see what does it look like. And it looks like there's a number and it says out of this. So let's say we want to remove this, and we want to put out of words in this column. So I'm going to say data rate, and we are going to have a series. And in here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say data rate dot string, and I'm going to replace the slash symbol with out of. But if I do that, you are going to see that we are not going to have spaces in this side. I'm just going to make it run, and you can see that 4.1 out of 5, 4.1 out of 5, 3.8 out of 5. So I just want spaces, so I can just add space and space in here, and I'm going to make it run again, and now it's perfect. Great. But there's a problem in here. There's 2 spaces in this side. So we are going to do a thing before this. What we are going to do is, at the first place, before doing that, we can see that there's spaces. So I'm going to say data rate, and I will use string.replace. I'm going to replace the spaces with no spaces, with an empty string. So when I make it run, at the last indexes, we are going to see that, let me quickly find, yeah, there's space at the last index, but there's not in this one. So it's not saved in the original data frame. For saving and modifying the original data frame, I'm just going to call it real quick, and you can see that there's no change since we didn't set anything. What we can do is we can just say data rate, and we can set it to this one. And after that, when I call the data, it's going to be modified. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same operation for this one. Since let's check if it runs smoothly. Like, I don't want 2 spaces, so I did this operation and it's working great. We have all the data in the same time. So I will say data rate, and it's going to be equal to this. So whenever I call the data right now, we are going to see 4.1 out of 5 and 3.8 out of 5, 3.7 out of 5, 2.5 out of 5. Great, so we have the values that we want. So let's do like last step, check for some more transformations. Okay, let's do that. Let me quickly check and record again when I find something. Okay, in machine learning models, what you need to do is you need to just turn the text columns into numeric ones so your model can learn from them. So let's just change this online order thing. We are going to make it 1 if it's yes and make it 0 if it's no. So I'm just going to call data online order, and we are going to have yes, no, yes, no. And I will say data online order. I will go row wise. I will say apply, and then I'm going to say lambda x1 if x is equals to yes, else 0. So when I do that, we are going to see that we are going to have a column with ones and zeros. So what we are going to do is, let's quickly check, like this index is no and this first three is yes. So it's working smoothly. I'm just going to set it to origin column like online order, and then we are going to have the data with the values that we wanted. Great. So I think it's all for the tasks, but before getting into the outro side, I just want to show you one more thing, that you need to save this cleaned data. Like we cleaned this data and now we want to export it. What we are going to do? We have two ways, actually a lot more, but these are the quick ones. We can save it with the indexes or not. So let me quickly show you. Let's say I want to export this as a CSV file, just like we retrieved data. I'm going to say to CSV and I'm going to give it a name like cleaned CSV file. And then I'm going to specify the CSV in here and I'm going to have it in here. So let's quickly check if it's worked successfully. I will say pandas read CSV and we are going to read the cleaned CSV file. So let's check if it's our file. Yes, it is. But you can see there's unnamed column with indexes. So if you want to have your data without indexes, you are just going to say data to CSV and cleaned CSV file no index .csv index equals to false, and I'm just going to read CSV again. I will say clean CSV file no index. It's a terrible name, by the way. CSV file no index .csv, and I'm going to read it, and we don't have that index column in here. Also the same applies for the Excel side. Let me quickly show you the both ways. Without index you can set it like data to Excel and you are going to say cleaned excel.xlsx, and you can see data to Excel cleaned Excel no index, and you can just set index as false. Also you need to specify .xlsx like the one before. So that was all for the coding part. If you come to this part of the video, thanks for watching. And before the outro, I want to say that if you liked the video, if you can leave a like and leave a comment, it will be great for the channel growth. And thanks for watching. Let's get to the outro. Thanks for watching the video. I'm sharing 2 or 3 new videos every week about data science and Python programming. You can subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. I shared a free data science bootcamp where I teach Python, Pandas, NumPy, Matplotlib, Plotly, Seaborn, and scikit-learn with 3 projects. The video is about 7 hours and it's completely free. You can just reach to that video from the cards of this video or the link in the description.